Hello teachers, learners, and parents. Sir Jeff po, at your service. Alam nyo ba na meron tayong website na tinatawag na DepEd Commons? Ang DepEd Commons ay binuo upang gawing accessible ang pagtuturo at pag-aaral dito sa ating bansa gamit lamang ang inyong mga smart devices gaya ng cellphones, tablets, at computers. Dito ay maaari nating ma-access ang iba't ibang learning materials mula sa Department of Education. Meron itong mga interactive materials, electronic self-learning modules, at instructional video lessons mula sa DepEd TV na tiyak na makatutulong sa pag-aaral ng mga mag-aaral galing ka man sa public o private school. Walang problema dahil welcome ang lahat dito. Para ito sa mga guro, magulang at mga mag-aaral mula sa kinder hanggang grade 12, alternative learning system o ALS, at pati na rin ang special education. At huwag kang mag-alala dahil kahit walang load ay maaari mong ma-access ang mga learning materials. Tama! Libre ito. Ang kailangan mo lamang gawin ay i-on ang iyong data at buksan lamang ang iyong browser at i-type ang commons.deped.gov.ph. Alam na ba ng iyong mga kasamahang guro o mag-aral ang tungkol sa DepEd Commons? I-share mo na ang video na ito upang matuto rin sila kung paano gagamitin ang DepEd Commons sa mabilis at napakadaling paraan. Muli, ito po si Sir Jeff at kita-kits po tayo sa DepEd Commons. Paalam!
Magandang araw! Sir Wilbur po, at your service. Narito ang ETULay upang gabayan ka sa inyong pag-aaral upang lubos na maunawaan ang iba't ibang paksa o subject. Ang ETULay ay isang free online tutorial class na pinangungunahan ng ICTS Educational Technology Unit sa pamumuno ni Undersecretary Elaine Del B. Pascua. Ang programang ito ay hindi lamang para sa mga bata, kundi ito rin ay magsisilbing gabay sa mga magulang at mga guro kung paano nila ituturo o gagabayan sa bawat asignatura ang kanilang mga anak o mga estudyante. Sa kasalukuyan, ang self-learning module mula sa rehiyon ng Calabarzon at kilala sa tawag na Pivot ang ginagamit sa ating ETULay online class. Kaya ano pang hinihintay ninyo? Ihanda na ang inyong mga ballpen o lapis, papel o kwaderno at samahan kaming itulay ang pagkatuto para sa bawat batang Pilipino. Sama-sama tayong magtutulungan para malampasan ang mga hamon sa panahong ito. Halina't matuto kasama ang inyong online tutor sa oras na ito.
Oh, good evening, everyone. I'm your tutor, Jess, for this subject, creative writing. So now, I'll be presenting to you the PowerPoint presentation for a review. Okay, so how are you this time? Are you feeling good? All right, so thank you for joining us here in our class. Subject, creative writing. So this is quarter 2, week 6. So we're now in module 5, the creative works in the literary and or socio-political context. This would be our competency. So our learning objectives here, learners shall be able to situate work in socio-political contexts. Learners shall be able to demonstrate awareness of and sensitivity to the different orientations of creative writing. And learners shall be able to write a craft essay. So let us try now, students. So we have this practice test. Okay, we have questions here. What you're going to do is to try to determine the extent of your knowledge on the concepts involved in this module. So you choose the letter of the correct answer. All right, so shall we have number 1? Literary pieces are being compared to what critical approach? A. Maps. B. Books. C. Lenses. D. Imaginations. Go. For number 2, the question is, which is of least interest to the literary critic using feminism? A. Abuse. B. History. C. Slavery. D. Inequality. Go. Next, number 3. What general themes can be classified under the cultural approach? A. Arranged marriages. B. Inequality in society. C. View of women as subjects. D. Lender-borrower or rich-poor relationship. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you. So next, number 4. What word has similar meaning of milieu in the study of literature? A. Plot. B. Time. C. Context. D. Conflict. Question number 5. What is the similarity between Marxism and feminism as literary theories? A. Power struggles. B. Interest in history. C. Relationship between nations. D. Closeness to reality. Number 6. What non-literary evidence can be used to establish the historicity of a story written centuries ago? A. Blogs. B. Websites. C. Periodicals. D. Social media. You can comment down below of your answers by number. Next, number 7. What literary theory also studies the members of the opposite sex and roles they assume and perform? A. Marxist. Cultural. C. Feminist. D. Historical. Next, number 8. Each critical approach is multidisciplinary as it includes the perspectives of humanistic disciplines such as literature, art, and social and behavior sciences. A. Marxist. B. Cultural. C. Feminist. D. New historical. Next, number 9. Which approach uses to what extent are the lives of the characteristics influenced or determined by the social, political, and economic forces as one of its guide questions in interpreting a work of literature? A. Marxist. Cultural. C. Feminist. D. New historical. For number 10, what lens can the following lines from Mahasweta Devi's Jolie about her wedding she could watch because she must have been very small at the time. At the time, she was sent to live with her husband and had to take a large loan from the Medras for her wedding and sending off, and he had to pay back the loan with his labor until he died. She remembered nothing nice about her husband. What or she used to beat her? A. Marxist. B. Cultural. C. Feminist. D. Historical. All right. So, are you done answering the 10 questions given? Thank you so much for watching. Mary Ann Babaran, Codorna, and we have Bern Caldeo Lamosere, Bambanayal High School, Tulunan, Cotabato. Thank you. So this time, what are your answers? Right, let's see. So number one, the correct answer is letter C. That is senses. Two, which is of least interest to a literary critic using feminism? That is letter B. What general themes can be classified under cultural approach? What is your answer? It's letter A, arranged marriages. What about number four? The correct answer is Melu. Melu is context. Letter C. Number five, what is your answer? It's letter A, power struggles. Next, number six, what is your answer? Letter C, periodicals. Number seven, what is your answer? Feminist, that's letter C. Number eight is letter B. Number nine is letter A, Marxist. And number 10, the correct answer is letter C, feminist. How's your scores? So thank you so much for watching and learning with our creative writing subject. So we learned that the elements of drama comprise the character, setting, plot, dialogue, and other literary devices. So we had also learned the relationships between text, especially the literary ones known as intertextuality. Okay, now, this time, identify the critical approaches or theories employed in the study of literature. You tick the box on ones that you engage in your study. So number one, elitist. Number two, biblical. Number three, Marxist. Four, cultural. And five, feminist. So you find it if it is critical approach or not. Okay, you tick. Number six, personal. Number seven, naturalist. Number eight, behavioral. Number nine, environmental. Number 10, new historical. Okay, so what is your answer, students, viewers? Okay, these are the answers. Okay, for our critical approaches, we have Marxist, cultural, feminist, and new historical. So this time, currently, literature encompasses multidimensional aspects of the society, namely culture, beliefs, ideology, since the literary proponents write various experiences from different contexts. So this is taking into another aesthetic level the critical conversation of dialogue embracing the issues of the society. Moreover, there are few critical approaches which you can use to interpret literature. So some of these approaches had been discussed in the previous lessons. So they had encompassed in the aspects of poetry, fiction, and drama or play. So surely you will be able to use these approaches in the subsequent lessons as cited in the book of Habib 2008. So these are the common critical approaches in analyzing literary pieces. So A is for cultural studies. This is a multidisciplinary approach which includes the perspectives of humanistic disciplines such as literature and art, and the cultural and the social and behavioral sciences such as anthropology, economics, and psychology. That is cultural studies. So what are sample critical questions? It could be what kinds of gender identity, behavior, and attitudes are reflected in the work? Is there any overtly or covertly expressed view of same-sex unions or relationships? So these are the literary pieces that can be studied using cultural studies include the following. We have The Blue Blood of the Big Astana by Ibrahim Jubaira. We have also Surveyors of the Liguasan Marsh by Antonio Enriquez. Are you familiar with this? We have also We Filipinos Are Mild Drinkers by Alejandro Roses. All right? We have viewers right now who are watching live in our ETULay with the subject creative writing. So that's all about studies. What about new historical perspectives? This is an approach in studying literature which provides a context or background information on how literary works were perceived in their time. So this approach also shows how literary works reflect ideas and attitudes of the time in which they are written. So these are the sample critical questions, class. So how do power relations reflected in the literary work manifest themselves in the cultural practices and social institutions prevalent during the time the work was written and published? So these are the literary pieces of the neo historical. Okay? Sambuangan, The Cult of War by Antonio R. Enriquez. Spots on Their Wings by Antonio R. Enriquez. Cave and Shadows by Nick Joaquin. So those are our new historical perspectives. Next is Marxist perspectives. This is an approach that examines literature for its reflections on how dominant elites exploit subordinate groups, how people become alienated from each other, and how middle class values lead to the control and suppression of the working classes. That is Marxist. So these are the sample critical questions. We have, to what extent are the lives of the characters influenced or determined by the social, political, and economic forces? So that is all about struggles now of economic forces. That is Marxist. Literary pieces, example, we have for Marxist, Progress by F. Chanel Jose. Next is Doli by Masweta Dewi. And number 3 for Poor Folk by Ivy Malyari. Next is the feminist, the last perspective, the basic perspectives in critiquing a text. So this is an approach that typically sees literature as an arena in which to contest for power and control, okay? And thus an agent for social transformation, like historicism and Marxism. This approach also examines the social, economic, and cultural aspects of literary works, especially for what those works reveal about the role, position, and influence of women. So these are the sample critical questions. What roles do men and women assume and perform, and with what consequences? How are the relationships between men and women, or those between members of the opposite sex, presented in the work? Mother, may kosa ka sa charger, pag-charge ka na. Wala ba to? Okay, so that is for feminist approach. So as a review, class, so what are basic approaches in for critical approaches in reading? We have number 1 is have the cultural studies. We have also new historical perspectives. We have also Marxist perspectives and feminist perspectives. Okay. Aside from that, we have also formalism. No, just like we have understood or studied about the formalist approach in reading. So now, directions. Let us saddle our reins and explore this topic by matching the literary approaches. Now, you answer the 5 questions here, and we will reveal afterwards the answers. Okay? So for number 1, this theory, these are the choices. A, Marxism. B, feminism. C, cultural. D, historical. E, formalism. All right. So number one is this approach considers every literary work as a product of its time and its world. Next is this approach does not limit itself to language and structure, but also spends time analyzing non-literary texts from the same time in which literary works were written. Three, this approach bridges the traditional undertaking of the terms like teaching, learning, text, author, and among others, and the process of redrawing the limits and that formerly separated them. Four, this criticism attempts to redress the imbalance of literary study in which all important books were written by men, or the only characters of real interest are male protagonists. Number five, this approach is concerned with understanding the role of politics, money, and power in literature. Works with redefining and reforming the way society distributes its resources among the classes. So now, what is your answers for this activity? Okay, so let's reveal now the answers. Okay, for number one, the correct answer is letter D. That is historical. For number two, what is your answer? That is letter C, cultural. For number three, what is your answer? Letter E, formalism. For number four, what is your answer? All right, students. The correct answer is letter B, feminist or feminism. And for number five, this approach is concerned with understanding the role of politics, money, and power. The correct answer is letter A. That is Marxist or Marxism. Thank you for your responses and for your sharing of your answers. Okay, so at this time, we shall have another activity. Then we will read this excerpt short literary piece, okay, entitled Unseen War by Antonio Enriquez. Now, you identify the cultural, historical, Marxist, and feminist context in it. Or you can have historical, you can have Marxist, you can have feminist, and you can have cultural. All right, so this is the Unseen War by excerpt from Enriquez 1996. So I will read to you the excerpt, then later on we will answer this literary piece. That very second, the first volley burst from the 60 cannons of the Spanish Armada, Senor Capitan Esteban de Morga, Maestre de Campo General Felipe Macumbong, Battalion Commander Santiago de Hansomer, and the guide Oroncaya Sofocan, and the musketeers, lancers, bowmen, artillery men, and foot soldiers sprung from behind Sultan Kudarat's stronghold. They would have rushed up their soldiers, do smelling certain victory for their thick bashes, thickets, woody trees, and rough land. Instead, they marched and tramped quickly, fast, northeastward. The infidel Moros, however, were aware only on the Spanish Armada facing them at the bay, not of the forces behind them on the land, which meticulously and systematically started burning everything in sight, cotas, sitios, and villages of the heathen Moros. All right, what are your answers? Any comments? Any answers from the group? Okay, so let's reveal now your interpretation and your analysis of the literary piece, The Unseen War, excerpt from Enriquez, 1996. Okay, what is this context of situating literature approaches? Okay, the answer would be for cultural, negative views of Muslims on Muslims. So that would be for cultural. How about historical? It could be conflicts between the Spanish and the Filipino natives during the Spanish conquest. Okay, that would be for our approaches. No, from the text viewed. Okay. Thank you so much for responding. So this time, let's have the wrap up. So what have you learned from the lesson? Okay, you've answered. All right, approaches in reading, critical reading. Okay, we have Marxism, feminism, cultural, historical. What else? Feminist, yes. Marxist, new historical or historical perspectives. So those are the key points, no, for this session about the approaches to learn, no, in this subject, creative writing. So have you understood about the lesson for today? Okay. So for those what you have learned from this lesson, you may apply that in your reading. No, just like reading any literary pieces, it could be texts, it could be a poem, it could be story, or any reading materials, no, that you can be seen with or read with understanding critically using these approaches, because these approaches are important in getting the real meaning of the any literary piece of the a text. So, are there any questions, students? Thank you so much for your participation. Okay, to those who are commenting, right? So thank you so much. Who else? Okay. All right. So thank you for your responses. And I do hope we will see each other soon or in other meeting. No? Then we will continue about the topic and we will continue on approaches in learning the meaning of any literary pieces of our understanding in our subject, creative writing. Okay, thank you so much, Joanne. Okay, she's now watching. And we have also Nor Asia. Thank you so much for watching. And yes, feminism, Marxism. Okay. All right. So those you have answered from the activities that we had. So thank you for your participation. Then if you got it wrong, so you may review your work and you try to recall or reread the information about our critical approaches in reading. Okay, so thank you so much. Okay, we have from Cavite, Idnel Aspiliaga Almorade, no? SDO. Okay, we have also from Kidapawan City Division, Annalie Gonzalez Dano. Thank you so much, students and ma'am and sir, for watching. Then see you next session here in our subject, creative writing, for a review of our lessons for better learning and for better understanding of our topics in our modules for this subject, creative writing. So see you next meeting and session here in ETULay Creative Writing. Bye-bye!
Sigurado ako na marami ka na namang natutuhan sa ating ETULay tutorial session ngayong araw. Tandaan, ito ay hindi lamang para sa ating mga mag-aaral, kundi pati rin sa ating mga minamahal na guro at mga magulang na kaagapay natin para maituloy ang pagkatuto sa kabila ng nararanasang pandemya. Patuloy ding sumubaybay sa DepEd TV para sa mga araling ginawang video episodes. Mapapanood ito mula Lunes hanggang Sabado, alas 7 ng umaga hanggang alas 7 ng gabi sa inyong mga telebisyon. Abangan bukas mula 1:00 ng tanghali ang iba pang aralin sa ating ETULay free online tutorial session sa Filipino. I-like and subscribe at manatiling nakasubaybay sa ating ETULay tutorial session sa DepEd Edtech Unit FB page at Educational Technology Unit channel sa YouTube at sa DepEd Tayo at DepEd Philippines social media accounts. Paalam!